What's going on, guys? It's so nice to have you back. It's so nice to be here. It's so different when we're doing these train stations once every 2 weeks rather than every single week. You can see we're jumping in just in time. The train departs in 2, 1. In today's show, we're actually going to talk a little bit about some dog training secrets that will help you to not only get success faster, but it'll allow you to have some skills that really last. You know, we often talk about, how to get success early and how to really make sure that your dog understands and is motivated. Today, we're really going to dive deep into some of the secrets that we use as dog trainers, and you'll understand why dog trainers' dogs get trained so much faster. I'm Ken Steepe.
I'm Kayl McCann.
Welcome back to McCann Dogs. So, every time I see season 3, I always think it's pretty cool that we've been doing a few seasons now of the train stations. And I don't know, it's just kind of neat. It's hard to believe that we've been doing this for so long already.
I know.
It
does
feel like a
seem
really
very,
long
very
time.
strange.
I'm just getting some other stuff set up here on the channel as we get going.
I just have a question that we can ask really quickly.
Yep.
Susanna Perez says, how often do you guys make videos? So we post brand new videos for our channel every single week, and they go out on what day now?
Saturday mornings.
Early Saturday mornings. So every week we have new content that are about dog training, puppy training, anything to do with dog training or dogs in general. And then we do this particular live Q&A every other Thursday with our YouTube groups. And then for those of you who are in the chat that are part of our online class program, we have a lot more stuff that we do on a weekly basis with those guys. But so every single week we post something new.
Absolutely. So, I've seen a few people that were, it's their first time being here. Actually, I saw someone showed up very early. Let's see if I can get back to that. And one of the first comments on the channel, let's see, it's going to be tough. Oh boy, now the chat is flying and it's going to be tough to find it. But I always think it's really fun when I see somebody who's here for the first time. I think it's really neat that, so Kelsey Wright. Just want to say hello. Thanks for joining us.
Kelsey.
Excited to join my first live. And let us know if this is your first time here on the train station. I know we have so many people that watch lots of our videos, and they're like, "Oh, I just missed the live. Oh, I can't believe that I missed another one." But I'm glad if you're here. It's so much fun to be able to have this conversation because, to be honest, we do these for you. So,
there's lots of first-timers.
We can answer your questions. We can really dive into some of the training challenges that you have. But if this isn't your first time,
oh my God, look at all the first-time people. I don't think I've ever seen this many new people on it at all.
Then you don't even know yet.
This is exciting.
If this is your first time here, we really want to know where you're joining us from. It's the train station roll call. We do this every single train station, every single live show that we do. And it's so exciting for me because we go through after and we go through all of the, check out all the chat and all the comments and stuff. And I see countries that I've never heard of, in some of our students. So we also
millionth time watching.
we also have online puppy training and online adult dog training programs, and we have students from all over the world in that, and it's so cool to see that, and it's so nice to have you guys join us. I don't know if you're familiar with Romper Room. Was that a Canadian thing? I don't think so, was it?
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. What I like to do is have a bit of a Romper Room moment with you. So I want to say, and there's just so many I'll have to breeze through, but I see Mitch jumping in from Fergus. Thanks for joining us, Mitch.
Fergus, that's not far away.
Yeah, I see Austin, Texas, Illinois, New York, Oxford, PA, San Diego, Kansas,
Colorado,
Howell, Michigan, Kentucky, Saskatchewan, Canada, Troy, Michigan, Salt Lake City, Utah, Tennessee, Costa Rica, Fargo, North Dakota, Texas is here. First time from Vancouver, BC. Thanks for joining us here from Vancouver.
Awesome.
Charlotte, Wadsworth, Illinois, Bakersfield, Palm Springs, Montreal, Quebec. Thanks for joining us from Montreal. Meg L from Sydney, Australia. I see Westport, Connecticut, Las Vegas, Washington. The list goes on and on. I mean, it's continuing
Tanya
to go
says
on
you need a
and
mirror
on.
for this. Yeah, for it's really truly
that's so true.
room,
yes, I'd look
then
through
you
that.
absolutely need a mirror.
I love that she picked up
Good call, Tanya.
on that reference. If you are trained, this isn't your first time, you also know that we wouldn't be able to do this without some of the help from our amazing moderators, specifically Dan, lots of links Luton. Without this guy, I don't know what we'd do. And you'll also know that we set up a satellite. We have this McCann Dog satellite just hovering, and what it does is it directly
tells us all kinds of things.
It directly feeds us with whatever Dan is up to as he's moderating. So let's jump in to the satellite cam and see what Dan, the moderator man, lots of links Luton is up to. And there's Dan. Oh no.
Oh, Lucy Lou. Lou.
Okay,
Hi,
so
Lou.
all right, so Lucy's in charge.
Lou.
Lucy's doing the moderating tonight, and if you see some like misspelled words, I mean, she's not that old. She might
That was a really,
mistype
really
some
cute
things.
picture
Which
of
I know
her.
she looked adorable, didn't she?
I love how her ears are like all like cockeyed and adorable.
I know, that was very cute. But you'll see Dan in the chat. You might also see Instructor Steve, who you've probably seen on some of our videos. He's also in the chat, and I see our friend SD Cruiser joining us here from SD. Thanks for jumping in the chat, SD Cruiser. We really appreciate all the help that our mods give us. So let's dive in to the task at hand. There are some things that, to be honest, what sort of prompted this for me was when we were watching Instructor Carol do her disc dog stuff the other day. I started thinking about, like, she's a 5-time world champion of disc dog. You're a 20-time world champion of dog agility. We have so many instructors that have achieved so many great things. It's all built on a foundation of understanding of dogs and understanding how dogs learn and think. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight on that, because I think it can really help you in your dog training journey. And as I mentioned, these are the secrets that will help you not only train your dog faster, but get some skills that'll last. And this is the kind of stuff you should know.
I think to build on that, I think a common complaint that we get on our YouTube channel is that a lot of our demo dogs, even though they're only 4, 6, 7 months old, they're already listening so well. And a lot of people say, can't you use untrained dogs? And, we had a situation a few weeks ago where we brought in a student's dog to use as a demo. And I had the dog for about 5 minutes. And just because I've trained a lot of dogs, I kind of knew what to reward and what not to reward. And within about 30 or 40 seconds, a minute, the puppy was already off her sitting on, towards me on a loose leash.
This is exactly
and these
what I'm
guys had to
talking
say,
about.
stop training the puppy or else we're not going to get a good video of a puppy doing it wrong. But we just started thinking there's so many things that we know innately that we would love to share with you guys that, that avoid a lot of problems, because we sort of know how to start things off and what to look for and what to reward. So those are the types of things that we're going to share with you tonight. And there's like a kabillion things, but we tried to pick like some of the
pretty big number.
Yeah, we tried to pick some of the top things that we thought you would appreciate the most.
I can't skip this. MJ
Toot,
Carrasco, what happened to the train whistle? You know what? It's right here. Here's just for you. Welcome to the train station. I just love doing that. I don't even know. It's just it's so much fun for me. I'm glad you guys enjoy it too. I see Dan dropped a toot toot in the chat.
Shannon says kabillion.
Let's talk a little bit about whether we have a puppy or a new dog in our household. We're going to talk about some actionable things. We're not just going to dive into the why, but we're going to touch on some of the how tonight in tonight's show. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about some of like the ideas that we enter when we get a new dog, the dog training lifestyle. It's something that we sort of, chat about and mention, but it's actually a pretty huge part of getting a new puppy. Oh, Caroline, dropping the $5 super chat. Thank you very much.
Carolyn, maybe?
Yeah, and you'll notice behind us. Thank you very much, Caroline. We'll have to keep an eye out, and Dan and Steve just keep an eye out if Caroline has a question to ask. But you'll see behind us, Caroline, you turned. Not only did you flash the lights in the train station, but you turned our super chat lights green.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's new. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Thank you very much. We'll keep an eye out for a question if you have one, or maybe it's just say hello. And thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about how. When we get a new dog, big picture, what are some of we have about 4 or 5 things that we're going to really focus on tonight. Where do we start when I talk about dog training lifestyle? I want to interrupt
you though, because you started to say something so important. I don't want you to get away from it about the whole lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important. We talked to our we talked to all of our students about this, but we've been mainly talking to our online students about this since that's the only classes that we have going right now.
Yeah.
But with our online students, we talk a lot about how you don't just want to train your dog to do things for a few minutes a day and then forget about them. Raising a dog and raising a puppy and teaching and training, it really is a lifestyle. It's we've joked before, it's like going on a diet. You don't just like do it a little bit and then throw it by the wayside. You have to kind of change how you interact with the dog, because dogs are learning all of the time, every single second of the day, whether you intentionally are training them or not. The dog's learning. So our job is to try to make sure that the information that they're getting all day long is is good stuff. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be perfect all the time. It means that we need to be there to celebrate the wins and then also say, you know what, that's not such a great idea what you're doing there. But if you really think about it as a lifestyle, you'll be much more likely to be able to shape their choices. And that's sort of what we do. When we get a puppy, it's, you know, it's kind of like a part-time job, full-time job, because our whole focus is about shaping and molding them the way that we want to. And, you know, by the time they get just even a little bit older, they already have kind of an idea of what they're supposed to be doing, and they're just so much easier to deal with. So that's kind of what we mean by lifestyle. It's not just like train them, okay, I did my training session and I don't have to worry about it anymore. It needs to be like an all-the-time thing.
So Caroline, and this is a great question, and Caroline, we'll answer, this is a good one to answer right now, because we want both of you guys. So my husband and I will be spending an equal amount of time and effort raising our new puppy in July. Can a puppy bond equally to two people at the same time?
I don't know.
Great question.
Can they?
Yeah, is that on purpose? Can they?
No, but that's, I should have just owned that.
I know, yeah, that was, yeah. It's a great question to ask. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, they absolutely can. I definitely think that it's really, really normal, though, in households for dogs to kind of gravitate or fall in love with one person more than the other. And usually it's the person that's like a little bit more of a natural born leader. Those are the dogs those are the people that the dogs definitely gravitate to, but absolutely the dog can learn. You know, when Ken and I first got together, he had his dogs and I had my dogs, and it wasn't not until the last couple of years that when we've gotten dogs, they've been sort of our dogs, like together. And you know, especially our youngest Beeline, she can flip-flop between the two of us, no problem. You know, she's sort of my dog, but, you know, if she thinks Ken's going to the truck to do sheep herding or anything remotely fun, she's no problem leaving me and going with him, because she's just sort of learned.
Love sheep herding.
Yeah, she's just sort of learned what's fun. So yes, absolutely they can. And you don't have to worry about it being like smack down even all of the time, but as much as you both can be involved, the better. It also just provides a lot of clarity and consistency for your puppy too. So as long as you guys are doing the same things, your puppy will really appreciate that as far as their learning's concerned.
So let's the first thing we want to talk about is motivation. And you know, some people, I see lots of comments in the chat, or not in this chat, but like in our comment section, something like, you know, this won't work, my dog doesn't like food, or this, you know, I'm trying to get my dog to like toys, he just doesn't care about toys. And, you know, it's so important when you're teaching a dog any new skill that you figure out what's motivating for them. Now, let's talk a little bit about, you know, food motivation and food drive, and toy motivation and toy drive, and how that can be such a beneficial thing for you at home to understand the difference between the two. In what might be useful, as well as knowing how valuable that it is to have that sort of motivation. Yeah,
I think when you have a young puppy and you're trying to get them to do things for you, especially when they have a very, very, very small attention span and they're easily distracted, we need to use motivators that the dogs actually want so that they're willing to work for us. And we do that until the dog actually learns that just working for us alone is valuable enough. But we want to associate, you know, listening to us for getting treats or toys or pets or affection or whatever it might be until we don't need them anymore. But I think it's really important that you know what type of food is motivating for your dog and that you're using it in the right way. So just spouting off a couple suggestions, we talk a lot about hand feeding your dog, getting them to work for their food. So if you put a food bowl down and you walk away, well, you have, 40 to 60 kibbles or however how many kibbles you give your dog. That's, all those moments that you have an opportunity to reward eye contact, get them to respond to their name, work sits, downs. Feeding time is a really common time for us to train our puppies because we know we have a dog that's hungry and they're usually willing to work. The other thing that we're firm believers of is not only being restricted to food as a type of reward. So we do a ton of toy rewards with our dogs, whether it's for playing, for responding to their name, recalls, tugging, so they learn learn about how to use their mouth and how to drop things on command. All of those types of things so that you have multiple ways to reinforce your dog.
Yeah.
And not every dog is the same. So not every dog is going to like the same types of treats or the same types of toys. So you need to learn about what makes your dog tick. You know, between the two of us, Ken and I have 6 dogs, and they are all very different in what they love, what toys they like, what food they like. We have some dogs that have like certain treats that are like their be all end all, and I have other dogs that are like so about it. So, and I learned that through trial and error and kind of figuring out what my dog likes. And then once I can find what motivates them, then it's really easy to use it to reinforce them for good behavior.
Caroline, dropping another $5 super chat.
You need to ask us a question when you give us a.
Thank you very much for the super chat. That was really, really great.
Super chat.
We appreciate it. So I think, and we'll keep an eye out for that. I think this is a good question, and I think it's really applicable to right now. So Katie Brown says, should my day-to-day life include wearing a bait pouch all the time? My pupper is so different when I have it on versus when I don't. That is not uncommon, and absolutely not. You shouldn't have a bait pouch on all the time. However, when you have a puppy or a dog in training, you should have reward available all the time. I can't tell you how many pockets of sweaters I've washed with like treats in it, or jeans with like some treats stuck in the bottom. It's so gross when I discovered that I had that in there, but being able to reward your puppy with good timing is going to be really valuable. Also, you want to get your dog outside of the training mode idea, thinking they only need to listen or there's only something valuable when you're focused on formal training.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add on
Yeah,
to that.
we don't stick to one method. Sometimes we have a bait pouch on because it's just easy to get the treats in and out, or a fanny pack or whatever. Sometimes we'll just put the treats in our pocket, and it's not uncommon when we have a puppy in our house anyways, we have like little Tupperware containers with treats around, on top of their crate. I usually keep one in the car. I usually keep one, just different little places so that anytime I kind of want to reach for something, I have, something to grab. I have been known to show up to a grocery store with a tug toy stuck in the back of my pants one or two times in my life.
It happens.
Whatever, just a bit weird, I'm sure. But yeah, you don't have to be regimented to one thing. You can switch it up.
For sure. There was something that I wanted to do over here, and I sort of lost track. I was trying to keep track of the chat. Let's show a little bit of toy motivation. Like so many people. So if your dog isn't food motivated, you really need to focus on why. Have you touched on that at all? Like some of the reasons that a dog might not.
No, you do that, and I'm going to get the.
So you need to really, if you feel like, boy, my dog isn't food motivated, he just doesn't care for food. Food is a resource that dogs see as valuable naturally. You don't need to teach them to love food, but what you do need to be aware of if they're not interested in food is a few things. Like, is your dog stressed? Is the environment, the situation, is something causing them to be not focused on the food and more focused on something else? Are you feeding too much? Are you, we get dogs in classes that are overweight, and their owner just thinks that it's not a big deal. But what you'll see is that dog who has access to too much food is always full, and just isn't that interested. There's no value in working for a couple of kibbles when you have 3 cups in the morning of free food. The other thing is the level of reward. So maybe you've worked for 10 minutes on some skill exercise, something, which might be a long time for a puppy. You want to keep shorter sessions than that. But after being rewarded with a few kibbles, they're like, I'm not that interested anymore. Maybe switching it up to a higher value food is going to be the difference between being successful and not being successful. Also, really being aware of what you're rewarding. So, I'm not just going to feed my dog anytime they do anything. I'm going to look for a little bit more effort. Look at this. You can't see the poodle. She's shaking like crazy.
She's got a crazy haircut right now, by the way.
She's not the only one. I look like a scarecrow. Look at this.
Ken won't let me cut his hair, guys.
Yeah, not yet. We'll see if the barbershop opens up.
Before we do that, Caroline's asked her question.
Okay. Let's go down to Caroline's question.
She's funny. Caroline, like Sweet Caroline, because I wondered if it was Carolyn.
Right,
See, you made that very clear. Thank you.
Okay, we have 3 adult cats. How long do we wait to introduce them to our new puppy in July? Love your show.
Good question.
Yeah, let's talk about multiple pet households.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to cats specifically, it can be a little bit challenging because they can't really control cats that well. So often when we have cats and puppies, it can be a little bit difficult. Now, some Some cats will just sort of like work things out, but you do have to be careful that the puppy's not going to get hurt. Like if your cat has claws, like there's just a lot of variables to kind of consider. Typically with us, our sort of golden rule in our house when we have multiple animals, we don't have a cat anymore, we did though, is we would often separate our puppy from our older dogs and from our cat while we were doing a lot of our initial training, so that we were developing some skills. So I would kind of wait until my puppy responded to her name, or she could kind of hold a sit and a wait, and she had a little bit more self-impulse. She knew leave it. So there's a couple things, because then when I started to integrate her into the house when the other dogs were loose or the cat was moving around, I could call her name and she would listen to me, or I could tell her to on your bed and wait and she would listen. But when your puppy doesn't have any skills yet, and then you're adding added distractions of, cats and other dogs and even kids, whatever it might be, it can be a real challenge. So our recommendation is, I don't want to put an age limit or a time limit on it, because every dog is different, and every person is different depending on their training ability or whatever the situation is.
Yep.
So the golden rule is start with some skills first and then add distractions in very slowly.
So we've touched on food training. Let's talk about toy training. And one thing, and this is a big part of,
Speaking of toy training, somebody's getting into the toy box already.
Something that dog trainers understand is that some skills need to be trained. We'll talk in a little bit, maybe your dog doesn't love toys, but they can be taught to love toys. It's a valuable skill. It's something that I use for sure when I want to reward a dog remotely, or I want to play an engaging game. But not all dogs naturally love toys. You need to teach them that they're fun. Let's maybe show that, because I know a lot of people at home will say like, oh, my dog likes playing with toys on his own. That's not the kind of toy playing that we're talking about.
Let's actually talk about that first before we get out the toys. If you really want your dog to be more interested in toys, we don't give our dogs access to toys all of the time. They get access to like chew toys, like bones and Kongs and things that they would like lie down and chew, but they don't get access to like interactive toys. We have our toys in a toy box that our dogs don't have access to unless we bring it out and play with them, although I've opened it, so she's been diving her head in there a second ago. But we do that to make the toys more valuable, so that when we bring them out, the dogs learn to play with us. Because if my dog rehearses a lot of taking the ball and going lie down and chewing it on their own, or running around with the toy in their mouth and learning to play with it without including me, I'm going to have a heck of a time trying to teach my dog to retrieve and to bring the reward back to me. So we don't let our dogs rehearse independence with toys at all. We play with them, which I'm going to show you in a second. And then once we're done our play, our high value crazy play, we put the reward away, or the toy away, so that it's like this exciting thing that comes out and then it disappears, and then they sort of leaves them wanting more.
And we needed to work pretty hard to get Hippie to, and I mean, she's a small breed dog, so we're going to use her as an example. Also gives me, if this is your guys' first time, you won't know how much I love to toot, but I'll do it right now. And thank you, Caroline, dropping a super sticker for $5. Thank you very much. It's time to head on over to the train station. Let me go to Kayl's camera. All right, let's head over. Okay, Kayl, you're up.
Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is just the type of toy. The poodle is diving her head into my treat pocket right now. Come here, you naughty thing. So I have a toy here. This is a really fun toy that lots of my dogs like. Hippie's not into this, and I want to show you that, you can make toys a little bit more exciting even if they're not that into it, but it is important that you find toys that your dog actually likes. Now, a really common thing, you are absolutely bonkers right now. One thing that people often make the mistake of is when they take a toy, they say, oh, you want to get it? And they shove it in the dog's face. And like Hippie's like, what the heck? What are you doing? She's not really that interested. She's actually moving her head away from me. So that's not a very effective way to engage dogs. Dogs love to chase. So a better thing would be to take the toy and maybe bounce it over here a little bit, bounce it over here a little bit, and sort of move it around, getting her to chase it. Ooh, good girl. Now she's thinking about it, but she's not super interested in it. So I'm going to get something that's a little bit more gentle and nice to bite onto. So I might get like a little skinny. Whoa. Now look, if I move it around, get her to chase it, once she latches on, I'm going to sort of tug and let her play a little bit. Good girl. And if she releases it, I'm going to just keep it moving around again. Woo! What have you got? Good girl. Woo, 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 woo. Yeah, good girl. I sort of make it look a little bit like dying prey to keep her engaged. Yes, good girl. And then I might work a little bit of a trade out. Yes, good girl. Take the toy away, and then I might tease her with it again. Oh, what's this? Ready, set, woo! Yeah, good girl. And this is such a great way to tire a dog out. You also, humans, will get tired out as well. I always say, if you are not panting and like a little bit out of breath once you've been working a little bit of tour work with your dog, you did not put enough into it while you're training. Oh, she's got a good latch now. Woohoo, good girl. Yeah, good girl. And again, she's starting to slow down or drive a little bit. So I'm going to take it away and I'm going to put it up there. Because what I don't want to do is play into the point where she's like, okay, I'm bored. It's like throw. Okay, I'm going to go lie down. That means you've done it too long. You want to do high energy practicing and then cut it. Quit while you're ahead, as they say. Short, sweet bursts to keep the dog engaged and happy and moving with you.
Awesome.
Anything else?
Just bringing it back. I think that was perfect.
Okay.
I think we should, there's some good stuff going on in the chat here, some great questions, but a couple things, and this is going to segue to our next point really well.
I love a good segue.
Yes, is the idea that small wins are important. That's something that a dog trainer really understands. So that was a great example of getting a dog motivated, and actually it played out really well because if you just didn't care about the first toy as much, and your dog, maybe there are toys.
Look at all the people who are like, Kayl, you're energized, buddy. Kayl, you're getting low-key very excited.
I know.
People always say, oh, my dog's not motivated. I'm like, give me
Right.
your toy, give me your dog. And
Right.
literally within 15 seconds,
For
they're
sure.
crazy.
Yeah, and I think
What you put
not
out, you
only-
get back.
Absolutely, and not only without question, and ending it early. Don't play until the dog's like, okay, I've had enough. End on that high. Something that I did with Hippie really early on is I actually let her win a bunch of times. Like she wasn't that, I wouldn't work a drop.
You know what?
I'd make it
I was
really
going to
fun.
talk about that, but I realized that I didn't have her on a leash.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
okay.
that's why I didn't show it. And I think that's really an important thing to say. Again, another dog training secret.
Yeah.
When I'm training a dog, I wouldn't practice letting them win if I didn't have a leash attached, because if I didn't have a leash attached, she could wander away and plan on her own. But again, these are just things that we know because we don't allow our dogs to rehearse behaviors that aren't going to sort of get us closer to our goal.
For sure.
We set the dog up so when they do it, they are doing it very reliably. So that's why I didn't talk about that, but I think it's important to know the why because that will be helpful.
Absolutely. Let's see. Oh, so we're talking. Oh, Pastor Dan.
Pastor Dan.
Dropping the super chat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Dan. Let's have a look at what that question is from Pastor Dan. From Pastor Dan, new to puppy essentials, the best way to introduce
St.
an
Patrick's
untrained dog to my housemate's new puppy who's in training. Okay, this is really good. And it's also really important. We talked just a little bit ago about introducing, bringing a new dog into your household.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about a couple specifics when we have a couple of dogs in training, in the same household. Let's talk about how we might do that. We did it in a video not that long ago. It was, it's been pretty popular, but let's talk about it.
I think it can be challenging when you have a new dog that's in training and then a dog that doesn't have any training. That can sometimes be a bit of a recipe for disaster
Right.
or like a lot of chaos and maybe excitement.
Yeah.
So
Excitement is best case scenario.
yeah, totally. So what we would recommend that you do is start off in a very controlled manner where you're getting that untrained dog to not be completely untrained. So,
Right.
I might have some food. I might have that untrained dog on a leash, and I might just start off by, without any distractions, just teaching the dog to sit on a loose leash and just pay attention and be rewarded. And I would constantly reward that dog just to teach the dog that was a nice positive thing to do. Then what I would do is practice that same behavior with that other dog, maybe in the same backyard or, at one end of the house and me at the other. I definitely wouldn't just put them in a room and say, figure it out, or put them in the same room with both dogs on leash because, you just don't know how the dogs are going to react or if they're going to listen. So you want to kind of set them up to be successful by having both dogs controlled, both dogs excited to earn a reward from whoever human is controlling them at that moment, and keep the distance between them great, large, big, so that you can really emphasize the focus. And then once you have the dogs understanding to be calm and, you know, rational around each other, then you can take it from there. But that first step that's not just like we do it one time and then we're done and we're good to go. That's something that you're going to practice several times until you can get to the point where the dogs can actually be fairly close together within 10 or 6 feet, and they're both still not lunging and pulling on the leash or barking or being inappropriate. And so that's going to be a few steps.
So another segue. I mean, it's funny how these things are sort of weaving in together.
I'm going to do the rest of this with the poodle on my shoulder.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. She's pretty cute. Small wins are vital when you are thinking like a dog trainer. Identifying, understanding, setting up your dog to make some small wins. So something like, having dogs in 2 separate rooms in the house, and they're not pulling towards one another. You know, you're not making it too difficult. But when either dog chooses to like check in with you, even though there's a distraction 15 feet away, that's a small win. That's the kind of thing that you're going to acknowledge and really make a big deal of. Maybe you food reward with them. Maybe, you play tug with them. It might be challenging for the other dog in that scenario. But really capturing some of these small wins is crucial. And this is where you build drive. We want you to have a dog who loves to listen. And the McCann method specifically, like our steps, are set up to make sure you get those small wins and then build on them. Yeah. So I don't want you, I know that's,
wow.
I don't know. I didn't know what to do when we say something at the same time.
Know.
But I love to toot, so I might as well just default to that. But setting up some of these small wins is going to be really important, and as well as capturing them. So a recent video, I don't even remember which one it was, I talked about getting attention and focus, and I know that's a real challenge for a lot of you guys, and it's hard to see how you're going to get more attention from your dog. That's a good way to do it. If your dog it doesn't matter, you're in your house or your apartment or whatever, and your dog looks at your face, reward that, especially for a dog who's usually a little busybody. A dog that's like always sniffing around and just trying to find stuff to do. If your dog comes and sits at your side, acknowledge that. Yeah. Small wins, build on these things, really capture those moments with your dog, and you're going to start to notice that they offer attention more, that they're looking for small wins. They're looking for more of these moments, and by rewarding them, you're likely to get more of them.
We literally did a deep dive on exactly what you're talking about with our online students last week. So every week we sort of take a topic, and then we go live on Zoom or Facebook or whatever with our students, and we really go into a lot of these like dog training topics and give specific examples of what they can do with their dogs at home, and exactly what you were talking about is what we focused on. It's just so important.
Yeah, Kelsey Wright dropping the super chat, 5 pounds. Thank you, Kelsey, for the super chat.
Welcome, Kelsey.
Yeah. Let's go back. It hasn't quite appeared in our queue
it's right there.
yet. I'd like to put it up on the screen.
I see what you mean.
There we go. Okay, so Kelsey, it's her first time here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Firstly, I love your videos. Due to pick up her first ever border collie in a few weeks.
Welcome to the dark side, Kelsey.
Yeah, it's a fun breed. So much versatility.
Yeah.
We have a 5-hour drive home. Any tips and crate or no crate in the car? So I'm gonna give you. We definitely have an answer for this, but I'm gonna tell you that I'm always worried. Safety first. I love when a dog can be restrained in the vehicle. I've been a firefighter for more than 20 years now. I was a paramedic for 10 of them, and I've seen these crazy scenarios, things that you'd never think would happen. So for me, I love the fact that we can have some sort of restraint system for our dogs in a car. Now, an 8-week-old puppy, it's just not as feasible. It's just maybe not as reasonable. But let's talk about, traveling with a tiny little puppy on the way home for the first time.
Yeah, typically I will bring a little puppy crate with me, and I will put them in the crate. And usually if I'm, I usually will try to come, have somebody with me. So if you have, somebody that can drive the car so that you can kind of sit in the back with the crate and you can kind of seatbelt the crate in, and that way you can keep your fingers in the crate, or you can throw some treats in there or things just to kind of help settle the puppy. I've picked up puppies like on my own before, and I've just put them in the passenger seat and like seatbelt them in the crate so I can stick my fingers in the crate door and just sort of like, settle them if I need to. But I do think the crate is a good option because it's a little bit safer. Initially, I would suggest putting like, a towel or something in there. So if the puppy is sick or has any accidents just because they're babies, you can clean it up really easily. And then eventually we sort of wean away from the bedding when they're babies because a lot of dogs will go to the bathroom on it or chew it. And then we reintroduce the bedding again to a dog once the bathroom stuff and the chewing stuff is finished. So,
Kristen, one of our online puppy students, I put my new pup in the crate for the drive home, and she was fine because it was her first time in a car, I think, and she was so nervous she didn't know what to do. She was alone. Yeah, for sure. It's so nice to be able to know that they're in a safe place on that ride home.
Yeah.
And again, I'm always going to be an advocate for some sort of restraint system in a car. Okay, I sort of lost track of where we were.
We were talking about the small wins.
Okay.
I think we can go on to the next one. I think we talked about it.
All right, so for sure. So we're going to talk about some of these. So we talked about some of the small wins. We also need to talk about self-rewarding behaviors. We really focus on motivation. We want your dog to be excited about learning, excited about listening, and so that they want to train. They want to learn these new things. Mm-hmm. Again, controlling their, figuring out what they love is really important, but you also need to know, especially when you have a puppy, what they're naturally rewarded by. What sort of things do they find are satisfying?
Yes.
Or what sort of things do they find are more interesting maybe than you that they don't need you for? Let's talk about how we really, great puppy owners and great dog owners that see success quickly know this. Yes. They figure out very quickly what a self-rewarding behavior is, and they either have some control of it or they don't allow the puppy to rehearse it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think barking, digging, things like that are really important, or dogs that are doing a lot of jumping. So, if a dog comes up and they start jumping all over you and you just start petting them, well, you're just rewarding them for jumping up on you. And it seems so simple to say it out loud, but I can't tell you how many times that people allow a dog to do a behavior and they don't even realize it's not really good behavior to reinforce, and they're praising the dog and talking to the dog in a happy voice, or they're petting the dog, or they give the dog food. I talked to a person in my private lesson today. She wants the dog to stop barking, and as she was talking to me, the dog was barking. She was literally putting food in the dog's mouth, and I had to say, "What are you rewarding for?" And she was like, "Oh no, I didn't mean to do that." It was really funny. So you need to be really careful that you're not accidentally reinforcing things that your dog is doing without knowing it, or that you're not just jumping too. So if your dog just jumps up on you and you pet them, or if they come and they, you're sitting on the couch and they start pawing at your leg and you just get up and you start playing with them or you pet them, you're teaching your dog that they can kind of control things by being pushy because you're going to reward them for it. So you need to be really aware of those things because you can shape and mold behaviors very well or not so well, depending.
Scott Lacey, $10 super chat. Thanks for jumping in on the train station.
Thank you, Scott.
Are those lights, is that yellow?
Well, they're yellower.
Okay.
They're like a lime
really
green.
tell. Okay.
I think we'll go with they're yellow, but they're lime green.
I can't tell. So Scott has a question. Is it better to train a single skill, sit or lay down or come, super repetitively, or mix it up with goodness gracious.
Here.
Mix it up with 4 to 5 different skills, then lay down, then come. Am I confusing my puppy by throwing too much? It's a really good question. By throwing too much at them, too much at him. So this is something actually we've talked about in previous
This is a
live
self-rewarding behavior right here.
Absolutely, for sure. So multiple skills in a row. Mary H., thanks for the super sticker.
Hiya, she says. Scott, that's a great question. You're definitely not throwing too much at your puppy by doing multiple skills. In fact, there's lots of times where I'm working on multiple things with my puppy at a time. But dogs do learn within repetition. So rather than doing sit, then down, then this, then that, then this, then that, it would be better if you did 5 or 6 sits in a row and then 5 or 6 downs in a row. And like you can do multiple behaviors,
Yeah.
but try to take one behavior and then work on it with repetition, because that's really what helps sink it into the dog's mind. We also know that when you train dogs to do something, and say you're working on a new trick or down, for example, if you do down and then you let like 5 or 6 days go by and then you practice it again, you are not going to get the same type of results or the speed and that the dog learns it if you train it that way. But if you do, a short session, early in the day and then again later in the day, and then the next day you repeat it, and then the next day you repeat it, your dog will learn that behavior so much faster because they can retain the information. And I've seen many times where I have trained my dog to do something and I think that they kind of have the idea.
Right.
And then I'll kind of put it away for a little bit and then I'll revisit it. And it's almost like the dog had time to like kind of let it settle or something, because then the second time that you practice it, the dogs catch on so much faster because it's familiar. So training sessions like that often are really helpful. You can definitely do a wide range of skills. That's no problem, but you're going to be better off if it's repetitive skills before moving on to the next, and then make sure you don't have a lot of time that goes on between the reps.
Abigail McGovern says, loving the poodle accessory. I have a toy cavoodle, a puppy who loves to climb onto my shoulders.
It must be a poodle thing. She has done this since she was like
So
baby puppy.
So
and she's
cute, though, so cute.
chill. She'll like type in the computer and she hangs out here.
Yeah, it's very cute. Amy, dropping the $4.99 super chat.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you very much. Let's jump to her question. My 6-month-old red heeler rescue is super oral, nibbly, and nippy for play and fun. Too much. Tried your video, but he didn't respond. So it presents an interesting challenge for sure, because so much of addressing, fixing some of the nipping and biting challenges has everything to do with like the subtleties. But things that I can very simply point you to are we have a couple videos on the channel that talk about prevention for sure, because that's a great way to not allow the puppy to rehearse it. Number 2, have a house line on all of the time so that you don't have to reach in to take hold of that puppy to redirect them away from you. There's also, we have 4 skills. I think it's 4 skills that help your puppy to stop nipping or something like that. I forget what we titled that video, but we were working with a very nippy, was it a German Shepherd Cross or something like that? And we show you 4 like pretty drawn out exercises that will sort of put you in a position of leadership, which that dog, a dog that is constantly nipping and biting, they really need that sort of information. Now, in our Puppy Essentials online training class, we talk a lot about puppy nipping, and we also do some online private lessons for those students that can really help people go through like some of the subtle changes that they need to make so that they can be successful.
I think that this is a good time to say, like, we have some people that ask us about like our online classes versus our YouTube videos, because if you're watching us, you probably know that we have a very large YouTube channel with hundreds of training videos for your dogs. But in our online classes, we're talking specifically about you and your puppy. And that's why we're sometimes a bit hesitant to really get into the nitty gritty of nipping, because there's not just one way to do it. It really depends on the person and the situation and the dog. So in our online classes, we have an opportunity to get to know you and your dog a little bit better. And then we're able to give you specific advice on how to stop the nipping, and on all of those types of things. And all of the exercises and skills that are in the program are taught in a very step-by-step gradual manner in a week-to-week program. So we have a ton of our students in the chat today. I see a lot of our students' names,
Kristen,
which is awesome.
Saw Tanya was in here. Tanya's been sharing some pretty great videos in the
Tanya's puppy is doing so well.
Really well.
But yeah, if you do have a young puppy and you're interested in a little bit more,
There's Andy.
more detailed instruction and community and an ability to ask, literally in our online classes, you can ask dog trainers questions every single day, which I think is like completely invaluable. So I think Dan has dropped the Puppy Essentials link. So if you go to the website, you can learn all about the program. You can learn the prices, all that kind of stuff. And then if you have a dog that's a little bit older, like over 6 months, we have another program called Life Skills. And that program is designed for dogs that are 6 months and older. So the program exercises are a little bit, we're week 1 and into life skills. Oh, yay, Mandy. Welcome. The programs are a little bit more directed towards, walking and recalls and greeting manners, things that are a little bit more important once the puppy stuff is over and done with. So yeah, go check it out. We'd love to have you guys join us.
Okay, moving on a little bit, talking about getting some effort from your dogs. We just talked about self-rewarding behaviors, and this can be, to be honest, a challenge people have is like my puppies keeps having accidents in the house. I take him outside, and then I leave him alone for a minute indoors, and he has an accident. This is the same reason you don't need to food reward your dog peeing outside, is the reason that you need to supervise them if they're having accidents indoors 100% of the time. That is that being relieved like that, like relieving themselves, is a self-rewarding thing. It just feels good, so they'll do it, which is exactly why you need to be very aware of these self-rewarding situations. And as I finish that thought, I'm going to say, Mom Gone Domestic, thanks for the $5 super chat. Let's go to, I'll see if I can grab that link in the chat.
I'm going to ask something really quickly. Someone says, Susan Bowe says, my puppy's 14 weeks old. It's Puppy Essentials. Is that the right age? Yes, it is, Susan. That is perfect.
Dogs under 6 months.
Yeah, dogs under 6 months can enter Puppy Essentials, and your puppy's the perfect age.
Mom Gone Domestic. We just got 2 Aussie puppies that are 4 months old. Both are scared of noises like vacuum cleaners, mowers outside. How can we fix this? Great question. And, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that may overwhelm your dog. And sometimes dogs are really sound sensitive.
Yeah.
She said 4 months old, 16 weeks. So let's talk a little bit about like some desensitization things that she can do. Not that dissimilar to Thunder.
No, definitely not. First of all, I would recommend that if you have 2 puppies that are the same age, I would be very careful that those puppies aren't spending too much time together. Especially if one puppy is more of the instigator's not the right word, but if one puppy is a little bit more
like
worried,
signaling.
Yeah, that's better, worried than the other, and then basically the other puppy who's really not that worried might say, well, my brother or my sister's worried, so I need to be worried too. So separating them is going to be really important. It's going to be extremely important for their confidence. We see a lot of people who have littermate dogs have confidence issues because the dogs are so focused on one another. They can't really, it's like, brothers and sisters or twins that can't do anything apart.
Right.
They need to be separated. So that's the first thing.
Yep.
The second thing, in terms of like those particular noises, vacuum cleaners, whatever it might be, her hair is so pretty.
She's so cute.
The
dog.
I'm also
I know, I'm just kidding.
We recommend that you approach those things very slowly. I know when we have puppies and we're starting to vacuum and do things like that for the first time, especially if it's our own puppy. So I've bred lots of Border Collie puppies in litters before, and we get them associated to the vacuum cleaner and all that stuff when they're babies, but not all breeders do that. So we might vacuum and we have a new puppy. We would put them like upstairs in the crate in the bedroom and then vacuum downstairs so they can hear it.
Yep.
But like they're not literally in the same room and it's not like on top of them. Or we might put the puppy in a crate, beside, and then one of us would like throw food in the crate while the other person's doing the vacuuming. And again, we probably wouldn't do it when we actually were vacuuming. We would say like, hey, hon, can you help me with the vacuum for like 5 minutes? And one person would be on dog duty, one person would be vacuuming, and then we would be training the puppy in those scenarios. But it's really important, good save Ken. It's really important that if you're dealing with sound sensitivity, that you approach it very lightly at first, and counter conditioning is a really effective way. So make sure that the dog's engaging with something that they like, food, toys, play, and then you have whatever that scary sound is very soft in the background until you can build it into being a little bit more there for the dog to see.
So SD Cruiser, one of my doodles was scared of the vacuum. I would use a vacuum in another room with the door closed, and open the door after. And now I saw him in his next comment. He said, now they just can't be bothered.
SD Cruiser, learning to be a good dog trainer.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we talked about self-rewarding behaviors. We talked about how small wins are important. The next thing we need to talk about is getting a little bit of effort from your dog. And this is one of the big things that people they're not sure like what they're rewarding. And I really want you to be mindful, you as a dog trainer, that you're really thinking about what am I rewarding my dog for? What is the value that I am paying out for? If you hired someone to paint your house and none of the painting gets done and you just give them the money anyway, or they paint half the house and you pay them the full amount. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you really need to get a little bit of effort. And this goes to leadership in such a big way. But setting them up so that they can do a little bit of work for you. Something as simple as, your puppy's wandering around and getting a good sit. I mean, it's so simple and straightforward, but making sure that you get the sit, then rewarding them for that. Conversely, just randomly rewarding your dog for no apparent reason is going to devalue some of that food reward. And this is something we see often, somebody will be sitting.
Often.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about how, unhelpful that is.
Yeah, like sometimes people are just rewarding or petting the dog and they don't even realize what the dog's doing at the time. Or, they'll say like, here, hippie, good girl. Here, hippie, good girl. Good girl, hippie, good girl. Here, hippie. I know, it's very confusing. You're sitting on my shoulder.
Whoa.
But like, meanwhile, when you look at what the dog's doing, she's like sniffing rabbit poo in the backyard or whatever it is. So you really need to be hyper aware that what your dog is doing in that moment is worthy of the positive reinforcement that you're getting, because the dog's always learning. The other thing, to go back to what Ken was saying, is you also want to think about like, what's your expectation for your dog? So for us, for like our training, we want our dogs and our students' dogs to learn the first time they're told to do something. And we want the dog to respond to the command happily and willingly without us having to repeat it a bunch of times. And use the come command as an example. My dog gets out of the door and they start running towards the driveway where the road is. I do not want to have to say, come, 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 like frantically before my dog turns around and returns back to me. I want to respond the very first time. But what happens is, like, people can totally understand that scenario because everybody feels the same way. Nobody wants to have their dog run towards the road. But then when the same person says sit, 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 and then finally after the 10th time, I know, they like, sit and then the dog feeds them. Then the dog sat and they feed the dog. Well, you said sit 9 times and then you fed the dog. Yeah. So now the dog says, well, I don't really have to listen to the first time you say it, because eventually if I just sort of do my own thing and I just choose to sit when I feel like it, then I'm still going to get the reward. And that has to do with Ken's sort of like paying off thing. Did the effort that your dog do really warrant the response? And understanding how dogs think and how to properly use rewards can really change what kind of product or results or behavior that your dog gives you.
Right. As a dog trainer, and this is something that, again, those superstar students that we get in classes also really recognize this, that you want your dog to work for you in all kinds of situations. There's that old sort of idea that, you have to go through the doorway first, otherwise the dog thinks they're the alpha, or you need to go up the stairs first, otherwise the dog will think they're the alpha. It's not as much about the dog thinking they're the alpha as it is insisting that the dog puts an effort to get something that they want. They want to go out the door. They can't wait to get outside and have lots of fun. So if you set them up so that they offer a little bit of work, a little bit of effort, just remaining in position while you go out the door, then you release them out to you. They're starting to put together that, if they ask me to do that, my human asked me to do something, and then I do it, and I get rewarded for that. These are natural training opportunities that I want you to look for. These are the natural training opportunities that dog trainers love because they're going to happen multiple times a day, and you don't have to think about like, well, I need to work on my sit down, walking on leash. They're tiny little wins that you're going to make throughout the day that are so valuable, and your dog just learns to listen. They learn that they work for you. Great things happen, and that's really what I want you to sort of get your mind around in the course of this live stream.
I need to laugh at ST Cruiser. So he says, my wife drives me nuts saying sit 5 times or speak, and my kids tell her, Mom, just tell them once and then use the hand signal.
Right.
Sounds like the kids are definitely getting the hang of the dog training.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that we can sort of bridge to, is that among the household, everyone in the household should kind of get on the same page, or at least be, talk about the value of these kinds of things, because it's going to make it a little bit easier. Now, ST Cruiser's got a couple of adult dogs that are, he does fun training with, but especially at the very beginning, having everybody sort of know, okay, these are the household rules, is really helpful. Yeah. And that will speed up your training as well. Which one? This one here? Yeah. Struggling with Maverick and his zoomies every evening. Is it okay to use the crate and try to settle him without making him feel like he's punished in the crate? Great question. We actually talked about this in, was it in our puppy thing? Yeah, in our puppy essentials class. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't try not to use the crate
You would?
immediately. No, try not to.
Right. You wouldn't try not to.
What?
You wouldn't try not to.
I would try not to.
Okay, we got it. I thought you said I wouldn't try not to,
No.
and I wasn't sure if it
I
was
would
too.
try not to.
Yeah.
Use the crate in that scenario right away. So it's not. It's definitely not wrong to use the crate to like stop the behavior from continuing to rehearse. But what you don't want to do is put the dog in the crate to kind of stop the behavior. You want to actually stop the behavior out of the crate, and I'll tell you to do that in a second. Then, so that the whole routine doesn't start to happen over and over and over again, I would then put the puppy in the crate. And that's how you're going to accomplish it. It's great to see that you don't want to use the crate as punishment. That's perfect. So what you would do when the puppy's doing zoomies and being crazy, again, Ken mentioned this earlier in the stream, but we recommend that when your dog is in training, no matter what they are doing and where they are, is they're out of their crate, they should have a leash or a line on. Right. So that when the dog starts to go into the zoomies, you can stop them with a long line, take the line and just tell them settle and sit, get them sitting, get them being calm. Once you have a few moments of calmness, then I would very happily say, you know what, you're going to go into your crate for a little bit. I will say, though, that when the dogs are doing a lot of the zoomy things, it typically is because they aren't getting enough stimulation in the day. So just look at your day with the dog and make sure that they're...
Sometimes it's too much. Like, you know, sometimes dogs are overtired to kind of like kids.
Usually it's the opposite, though. Usually it's
sure.
that the dog isn't getting enough exercise. And I don't mean like going for walks. I mean like mental exercise, mental stimulation, training, and that type of thing. So just, you know, make sure that you're tiring the dogs out. Our dogs don't really have zoomies, but it's because our dogs are very stimulated and exercised and tired all day long. And when we don't have an opportunity to exercise them in the degree that we normally do, we see it in our dogs.
For sure.
They're just a little bit more energetic because they just haven't had that same energy. And just on this topic, I see another question, Wisconsin bound. How long should the line be? Inside the house, we recommend it being anywhere from 4 to 6 feet long. We recommend taking a handle off so it slips and slides around the house a little bit more easily. The lines that we use outside of the house are anywhere from like 20 feet, that type of thing. So the dog has more freedom to move around, but not so much freedom that you can't catch it. Dan, long enough that you can catch it. There you go. Taking the words right out of my mouth, bud.
That's great. It's a good point. So talking about these opportunities to get some effort from your dog, maybe it is something as simple as someone coming in your household and you have your dog on your house line or on a leash. If you can plan ahead, it's a way better option to have your dog on a leash, and just getting them to like not darts to the door, getting them to sit in at your side. Like, these are the small efforts that you want from them. So one thing we often do, and again, I think we have a few videos on this, but simply putting their food down.
Yeah.
Like insisting that they don't dive their head into the food bowl. That's a win. I mean, especially when you're talking about something that is so desirable. It's mealtime. They can't wait to get the thing. Teaching a weight. Actually, someone in the puppy group not that long ago showed like a remarkable wait for food.
It was Mimi and her Shiba Inu puppy.
That's right. Like, and I'm like, this is amazing. I can't believe how well the dog's doing.
She's actually on. I'm a long way away from people saying hi to pup still.
Yeah. So
yeah, but your puppy is really good at waiting for its food in the crate, Mimi.
Yeah, for sure. But like little things like that, guys, this is the stuff dog trainers just know, because they see it. They see the value of these things. And again, we talk a lot about like this kind of stuff in our Puppy Essentials. Let's talk a little bit about what you guys you're doing calls tomorrow. So we do Zoom calls, or we're doing Zoom calls for our Puppy Essentials Life Skills group. What's the call for tomorrow? Maybe some of these puppy guys might want to get in on it.
Yeah. So tomorrow our Puppy Essentials topic is how to exercise your puppy so that you can keep them more sane in the house, because we talk a lot about, we're not big advocates of like young puppies going on long walks for numbers of reasons, which we talk about. But we have often people say, well, if I can't walk my dog, what else do I do with it?
It's a great question.
Entertained and exercise. So that's what we're talking about tomorrow. And then our life skills program, we are talking about the use of food. And like we touched a little bit on it today, but we're going much more into it tomorrow. Things on like when to use it, how to use it, how to wean off of it,
which is something people are always like, I know.
Hun,
we need to have some fun thing. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'll just hit this. Every time we say something, at the same
I thought
time.
maybe I would say, like, you owe me a beer.
Yeah.
You usually say jinx or
I don't,
something.
something like that, yeah. I don't know.
What is a young puppy? So our Puppy Essentials program is for puppies under 6 months, and our Life Skills program are for puppies over 6 months.
Walking the fine line of getting your dog to put in effort, appropriate socialization techniques, appropriate amounts of training. Overwhelming your dog can lead to failure, and that goes whether that is the environment is too much, the what you're requesting of them. I often see this. People say, this sort of goes back to what you said, where people will say, it would be nice if you used an untrained dog. In some of your videos, when it is a dog we've literally had for like 4.5 minutes.
I know.
But it's because
we did.
we insist on the dog paying attention to us before we even think about taking a step towards teaching it to walk on leash. We show the dog how to be right in position. And if we were to take that new dog that's a loner dog for us, or loner puppy, and just start walking. Just start to practice walking training. The dog won't have a chance, and you won't be able to reward that puppy. You won't be able to reward your dog. You need to make sure that you're building on a solid foundation of understanding. And if that means that you focus simply on sitting in control at your side on a relatively busy place. And I know it's kind of hard now because of social distancing, et cetera, but we'll move back into that. So maybe for you, if you've got a wild and crazy dog, maybe going to the middle of the park and asking your dog to sit and remain in position, maybe that's the best thing you can do for them right now. Certainly it goes dog by dog basis, but if you were to take that same dog and put it into a situation where they'll go crazy when other dogs are around, then that might be overwhelming them. Yeah. So I want you to be really aware of what's my dog capable of. Where can I be successful? Where's that threshold? How do I test the limits of my success? How can I put my dog in a situation where they're probably going to choose the right thing, but if they don't, I know what to do, to fix them, to help them to be right. This is what I want you to really, be thinking about in terms of overwhelming your dog and how much it can set you back. Not just that, those dogs that are, again, we're going to have a lot of puppies and young dogs that aren't super socialized or haven't been around a lot of other dogs.
Yeah.
And that can be a pretty scary situation. Let's talk a little bit about, overwhelming your dog in environments, like in terms of like them stressing low rather than stressing high.
Yeah, I think sometimes I see some people put puppies in situations that are like a little bit more overfacing. That sort of comes back to like the whole walking thing. Walking in busy places when there's like maybe scary trucks that go by, or just like big loud noises that maybe the dog's not mentally ready to deal with yet. Or like if this is not a good example, but normally when you're not social distancing, if we have people that have like a bunch of people in the house, or like Christmas, we get lots of questions at Christmas with family parties. And then you have like baby puppies or young dogs running around and getting into mischief and jumping on people because just the stimulation of the house is just too much. Or maybe you just have a busy household on an everyday basis, and that type of stuff is just too much for the dog. Some dogs stress high, and some dogs just shut down. They want to just kind of go and be on their own because they just feel a little bit too overwhelmed. And we as dog trainers look for those scenarios, and we try not to place our dog in a scenario where they need to feel that way. We always want to focus on building confidence and teaching the puppy to be worldly and comfortable in those new settings.
Jennifer Fujimoto, thanks for the super chat. She's got a good question, and actually this is, she couldn't have asked it at a more perfect time. So Jennifer says, my rescue gets so excited with new people, and I can't get her to stay down or remain in the down. I tried to step on the leash, but she struggles and gets more frantic. Other ideas? Yeah, and the down can be a really challenging position for some dogs. So
I think she just means stay down means like stay off.
Oh, okay.
As dog trainers, one of the things that we have a hard time with is when people say down.
Yeah.
Because to us, like that means like lie all the way down. So we use the word off. I think that's what she means.
Okay. So let's talk about how to help the dog to be more successful and not overwhelming the dog so that they get really excited. And I want to show you this before we do. Look at Hippie Shake here on the camera too. She was very. She was shaking the toy like crazy, and we just talked about how she doesn't, how she didn't like toys before this, but you can tell.
Which one?
Okay, let's answer Jennifer's question.
Yeah. So one of the things that you'll find most effective is to teach the dog to do something else instead of the jumping. And sometimes it is it's helpful to spread the distance between the puppy and the dog, and whatever the dog is very excited and stimulated by. So if it's somebody who comes to the door, you might not let the dog go right up to the door. Or if you're passing someone on the street, you might not let your puppy go right up to that person. And one of the things that we know about dogs is often if there's a behavior that you don't really like, a really smart tactic is to replace it with a behavior that you do like. Because often dogs are doing, jumping and behaviors like that because they don't really know what else they should be doing, and they're just reacting to their feelings. So by teaching the dogs to sit, for example, on a loose leash to get a lot of rewards is an opportunity for you to default to that, or go and lie on a bed. We use bed, a lot of go on your bed type of exercises for our house. So when people come to the door, we condition our dogs to go and lie on a mat or go and lie on a bed. And when we open the door, the dog's been rewarded millions of times for laying on the bed. So that becomes just as exciting as going to see the person at the door. And then, of course, in our training, we teach the dogs not to jump up. And then, of course, we can, call them off the bed and let them go and say hello in a happy but controlled manner. So right now, I would try to replace the jumping up with a different behavior. And you will find that if that's not working, it probably means that you're too close to the distraction and you need to start further away if you're wanting to do it through positive reinforcement.
Imagine someone showed up right now and they can't see the dog, but they see this.
And they thought that was your chest hair?
Yeah. And a booby tassel. I'm not sure. Which is funnier. Either one. It's pretty amusing. Okay, buddy. Okay, so rehearsal, allowing your dog to rehearse. So this is a great example. We can talk a little bit about that last question. From who was that? From Tanya? No. I forget. I've lost it now. That last question, rehearsing, allowing your dog to rehearse stuff. It's really important that if you do reach that point where the dog fails, Jose, dropping a super chat.
Thank you, Jose.
Another superstar, another puppy training superstar. Thank you very much for the super chat, Jose. Just before we get to your question, I'm going to save it and go back to it. What was I talking about? Oh, not allowing your dog to rehearse it. So the act of jumping up and like simply jumping up on somebody is pretty rewarding. So you need to be able to redirect your dog. You can't allow them to rehearse that stuff. The same thing goes for going potty in your house. Same thing goes for chewing on something that you don't want them to. You can't allow them to rehearse that stuff. So you as a dog trainer need to make sure you have some way to redirect or some way to interrupt that behavior. And supervision is going to be key here, guys. Positioning yourself or setting you up so that you can be a great trainer for your dog. Super helpful. I didn't hear you. I was talking too loud. Okay, from Jose. Jose says, any tips for keeping a level head when puppies do something unfavorable? Is it frustration or just me lacking some understanding with the situation at hand? Obviously, it's not the puppy's fault. This is really, really important, and it's a great question. And I love
the fact that you even know to ask this question is quite impressive.
Sometimes Instructor Steve, doing his backroom talk, which we do in our grade 1 class, he'll sometimes say like there are times when some of the value of the crate is you can just put your puppy in there and forget, like have a glass of wine and forget that you got a puppy at all for the next hour, and then go back to training your puppy. But this is a good question. Let's dive into this.
There's a lot of funny comments about your chest hair.
Oh,
which is hysterical.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I didn't write it down.
It's really important that when your puppy does something that you don't really like, that you address it without emotion. Because what we don't want to do is we do need to have some type of discipline and structure in our dog's life. But what we don't want to do is cause the puppy to be worried or upset about those types of things. So, and this is that fine line between people who don't ever want to tell their dogs that they're wrong because they don't ever want to get mad at them, versus someone that understands that you can be a strong leader and you can do it very fairly and effectively without getting all bottled up about stuff. Just deal with it unemotionally and then move on from there. Right. Are you going to have moments of frustration? Absolutely. Are you going to want to cry and rip your hair out sometimes?
Sometimes.
Absolutely. Yep. That's just part of having a dog and a puppy and going through those things. Everybody has those moments when you're just over it. So it's not, there's nothing wrong with feeling that way, but you do want to make sure that that you are addressing things unemotionally, so that you can do things properly. And you're right, it's not really the puppy's fault. The dogs are only going to be as good as we train them to be. So if your puppy's driving you crazy, you need to do something different. What do you need to change in your everyday life with your dog so that they're making better choices? Is it management? Is it more crate time? Is it more training? Whatever it might be. But the problem is if you're just starting out and you don't really know how to train dogs yet and you need that guidance, you're going to make some mistakes and you're going to be frustrated for sure. But that's why you jump on live streams like this, or you
join a puppy program.
And then you can complain to us,
and I think,
and we will help you and guide you.
And I think Jose is sandbagging a little bit. Like he's done some really amazing things in that program.
Absolutely.
And like he has definitely shown off the skills that he has. Natural dog trainer.
Yeah.
You know, somebody that can take some direction and can really affect change.
Yeah.
But I want to say Corgi home. Thanks so much for the $20 super chat. Gives me another opportunity to toot, and you guys know how much I love to toot. Corgi home says, your channel's been so helpful. After getting my first Corgi puppy last year, congratulations. Having had 7 adult Corgis from various sources, my puppy has had a whole new been a whole new experience.
Oh, it's so nice.
That's really, really nice to hear.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you share. Hi. We're so happy to help you out. I mean, that's one of the things that's exciting. I found exciting. Now, keep in mind, I was a student first. You know, I came to McCann Dogs as a student and fell in love with the process of dog training. And then as an instructor, I realized how you could literally impact their lives.
Yeah.
You know, because it impacted mine.
Hippie shake.
And it was so exciting to see, and this is where I was kind of going with this, but whether it's a Corgi, or an Irish Wolfhound, or a German Shepherd, or a Border Collie, or whatever, Cane Corso, to you know, whatever the breed is, you know, all these dogs. It's a little bit of troubleshooting and figuring out, you know, what their unique challenges might be. Sometimes it's like focusing a little bit on what do we know that breed likes. So for a lab, for example, you know, they carry stuff in their mouth, they love to retrieve. I can use retrieve as a valuable reward for that lab because they love to do it. So I can get them to do a skill and give them a jackpot or payout that they really want. Your terriers, Funky Monkey's a great example. Maybe they're, you know, really accustomed to sniffing stuff on the ground. I know that that's a unique challenge that the terriers might have because they're so focused on their nose that I might have to work through. You know, I might change some of my training to be more successful with them. But the adorable little Corgis are always fun to have in class too.
Oh my God.
And I'm happy.
Puppy Corgis are the best.
Oh my God, they're adorable. But I'm so glad we could help Corgi home. And thanks for the super chat. That's very, very cool.
Dan just bet Ken came for grooming and left as a trainer and with a wife.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm getting roasted in the
I
chat.
love this. Keep it coming, guys.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
That's hysterical.
I think we're out of time. I don't think we have anything else to talk about.
That's because you don't want to...
I'm happy to go on.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to chat about.
Oh. What?
Do you have anything to offer? Anything more?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, perfect. Kimberly.
Good timing,
hanging out.
Kimberly.
Yeah, very good timing. Here's for the super chat. Kimberly asks, I've got to get it up on my screen here. 1 second. Introducing Luna.
Kim is
this
also
is good.
One of our puppy students.
Yeah. So let's actually show this. Can we show this? She's introducing Luna to hair clippers, and I think this might be something that you guys, as everybody, might see some benefit.
I've had to do a lot of this with Hippie because she had to get
lots of grooming for sure. Okay, while Kayla's gone, guys, we need to come up with something that we can give her a hard time about because I feel like she can still hear me. Damn it. Separation anxiety and puppies. Kendra, great topic. Hang out for Saturday's video. I got something special just for you because I think it's really going to be, it's good. That's going to be a very popular topic, and I don't want you guys to struggle. So make sure you check out the video on Saturday morning. John Fraser, any chance the school will open up soon? We're actually there today, figuring out how we're going to make that happen. So
definitely nothing before July.
Yeah, nothing before July for sure. And there's a lots of retrofitting and things that we need to
maybe
do
not
to make
even
sure
then.
that everybody's safe. But we will figure it out. And call our office. If you're a local student, mccanndogs.com is our website. And you can call one of the professional trainers in our office, and somebody can maybe give you a little bit more specific information. Okay, let's dive into that a little bit.
So
Also,
I'll just show you a little closer. It's just like really intense. Don't watch your face.
yeah, these are terrifying, these things.
So these are the grooming equipment that I use on my poodles, both of which she had to get very used to. So I'm going to show you like what I did.
Okay, quick question, Andy Dreyer. Is there going to be a Zoom call for life skills tomorrow? Yeah, there is, Andy. And what's the topic again?
I posted the reminder on Facebook a few hours ago, but you're going to get an email in the morning, Andy, that has the link in it. It's the same time. It's at 3, life skills is 3 p.m. EST.
I think Tanya wants you to groom me.
Oh my God, should I cut his chest hair off?
No. Well,
Here.
I don't really care about that so much. All right, that's enough.
Maybe we can do a haircut. Let's do a haircut.
I mean, I do look like a... All right, be careful. This will be like live stream fails where my ear gets removed and then my sunglasses won't fit right. With that said, let's head on over to the train station.
Okay, hip. Okay, so...
One side, Kayl, you're actually blurry. Can you just come toward that camera a little bit? Let's stand up and go towards that camera.
Oh.
See if we can get you back in focus. Oh, it's awfully dark over there, isn't it? Okay, you're back. Okay.
Okay. I go like right here. Is it okay?
Keep losing you. Yeah, I don't know. We're having some focus issues.
I can just come back to this one.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
Come here. Hop up.
Okay, I'll give you. Oh my
Okay,
goodness!
fine. Yeah, she
Hop
can go
up
there.
on me.
That's okay. She can do that.
Okay, well, you're a little bit more room.
So what I would start to do is get the dog very comfortable. So I would feed her first. Okay, you can do this with anything that your dog's worried about, really. You can just apply this training. So I'm feeding her, and I'm feeding her really awkwardly so that you can see, but I wouldn't normally feed her this way. And then I would just turn this on. Good girl. And I would feed her. Now I'm almost out of food, so I'm going to turn it off. And this is all about conditioning. So if I was to run this and not feed her and sort of let her think about it, it's much harder for her to work through that. So food comes first. So I'm distracting. I can turn my buzzer on. Good girl. Now again, I'm at my last treat. I'm going to turn it off so that she starts to condition, every time that sound happens, food is there. When the sound stops, the food stops. So what is she going to prefer more? Now, she's comfortable with this because obviously I've done this already. But then what I would do is rather than cut her, I would turn the thing around and I would just practice bringing it close to her. So just conditioning her a little bit to it. Then eventually I would just like put it on her body, just sort of move it around. Yes, good girl.
And the whole time she's paying out. The whole time.
I'm almost out of food now, so I'm going to turn it off. Okay, so I'm removing the scary part when the food had disappeared. And I would do the same thing with the scissors. So again, I would use the non-sharp end.
These things are just so intimidating. I hate them.
I'm so much better at using scissors than I am the buzzer, though.
Yeah.
But I hair stuff. So I would just hold it on her. I would get her very comfortable. For her, I have to be able to cut near her face. So I've done, for those of you in our Puppy Essentials program, we teach chin. This is a really important part. So if I'm holding her head and she's very comfortable, I need to be able to just place this on her. Yes. And then I can reward her from there, teaching her to be very, very still. Because if I have sharp scissors, these are a bit intense for her face, I realize that. But if I have sharp scissors, she can't be moving around. I need her to be very, very comfortable with being still. And a lot of people say, oh, my dog loves handling. I don't have any problem. But it's very different when you have to groom a dog or clip toenails or look in ears or look in mouths. The dogs have to be very, very still, especially when you have something sharp. So it's not just be still. It's about just really, see how she just sort of conditioned? She just sort of hangs out. And I mean, she's had this done millions of times now. Oh, you're so good, baby. Yes, good girl. But she's also had a ton of repetition of getting this done and then being reinforced at the same time. You're so cute and you need a haircut.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say about that. Kimberly asked a follow-up question. How do I prevent running away rehearsing? I think she's already learned to be afraid of them. You're going to need a teammate, or you're going to need to be able to control the dog a little bit. So you're going to have your house line on. for sure, regardless of whether someone's helping you or not. But you can't
if you
allow
can
them...
stick to just someone helping you right now, that would be best. We have one of our dogs that's quite worried about nail clipping, and Ken and I have decided that we are going to tag team her for a little while, so that we can build up her confidence. So one of us holds the puppy, and one of us, or she's not a puppy, she's a dog. One of us holds the dog, one of us clips, and we just sort of work through it together so that we don't overface the dog.
Yeah. There's another important thing ST Cruiser pointed out, really good tip, to buy good clippers. Good ones are much quieter than the $60 ones you get at Walmart. That's a really good point for sure. Same thing goes with nail trimming, like nail clippers.
If you have bad clippers, it can like really be bad experience for the dog.
For sure. Okay, I've seen some great things. Somebody mentioned I might have Austin Powers chest hair.
Ew, this is like taking a really gross turn.
I know. We kind of set that up to happen. But you know what isn't gross is how awesome you guys were this entire show. So many good questions. I want to thank everybody that has asked a question, made a comment, simply for hanging out here with us. It's been so cool to have you guys with us. I want to thank Caroline for her super chat, super sticker, Pastor Dan, Kelsey Wright, Scott Lacey, Mary H, Mom Gone Domestic, Jennifer Fujimoto, Jose Garibay, Corgi Home, and Kimberly Autor. Thank you for the super chats. And tomorrow we have our online training classes. We have a puppy essentials course, which is for dogs 6 months and older. It's 12. You get access to it for 12 weeks. We have 4 weeks of like progressions, different progressions, as well as like private groups where we have these chats, as well as calls. Like we literally see you tomorrow if you were in our puppy essentials course. So check out the link. I think it's mcanndogs.link/puppy essentials. And our life skills is for dogs 6 months or older. You know, there are so many times that people, reach out and say, "I wish you were closer." This is literally you get more access to us online because we're hanging out with you every day, answering questions.
It's definitely different than a lot of other online programs where it's a lot of like self-education.
Yeah, not the case.
This is definitely not the case. You have access to instructors, quite exclusively, and we can help you every step of the way. You can start anytime for sure, and whenever you start, you would start at the beginning. I saw someone ask, like, will you start at the beginning if we, it's a drip system, so it has a specific pace we feel is a good amount of time to work on each skill. So,
for sure. And so tomorrow's call for Puppy Essentials is?
It's at 2 p.m. and it is about exercising your dog so that they're
more
less
well-behaved.
Crazy.
And life skills is about using food when it's appropriate, when it's not, as well as weaning off food. And these are super important things. We want to give you an opportunity to get in on those calls tomorrow. Huge thank you to our moderators. I see Dan Luton. Lots of links, Luton, just going crazy in there. SD Cruiser, Instructor Steve was in there as well. I want to thank you guys. Without your help, this would be a much more challenging and complicated process. Maybe this is your first time on the channel. If that's the case, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We publish new videos every week to help you to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. On that note, I'm going to wish you guys well. I'm Ken.
I'm Kayl.
Happy training, guys. See you soon.
This is Hippie Shake.
Bye for now.